Hey fam, happy Sunday. Hope you have a good weekend. I am about to do my review for Queen Sugar Season 4, Episode 4. I've had this review done for days. I just haven't recorded it because of the 4th of July and then just everything. Anyway, let me get right into it. So we begin the show. Basically, Nova's going on her book tour and she's leaving Micah to look over her house, basically, you know, so she's giving him instruction there. And they're discussing it, and out of the blue, she like almost breaks down crying over her family, giving her the cold shoulder. Basically, she's been calling them. No one's answering her phone calls, and no one is returning any messages. No one wants a damn thing to do with Nova. Rightfully so, right? Anyway, Mike is there for her, and he's basically the only one. That's who Nova has right now. So then we see Vi. She's at home, and she's been up most of the night, so it's now morning, and she's been up most of the night thinking, basically, and she claims, because Hollywood comes in and asks her about it, and she claims to him that she's trying to expand her menu, basically, and that's why she's been up. And he knows damn good and well that is not the reason that she's up at all. You know, it might be something she's trying to work on while she's awake, but that's not why she's up. Okay, so then we see Charlie, and she visits the new medical center that she offered to, and this place is the old place that her and Micah used to live in before they moved into the house that they're in now. Okay, so she offered it to Romero, that the guy that she's seeing, her man, basically, and he's a physician's assistant, and they've set it all up, so she's visiting this place. And they're thanking one another for, you know, the role that they've played in this, Charlie and Romero. Thanking each other for allowing this to happen. And Micah shows up there. He walks in, and he's like, wow, what is this place? And she's explaining to him, basically, what the center is, and then she introduces him to Romero, and I'm dumbfounded at this point, because I guess I didn't know that they didn't know each other, but then I think she was with him all summer when Michael was gone to Paris, so I guess this is the first time they've bumped into each other. So they meet there, and she tells him, you know, this is the guy running the place, blah, 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 and Michael's like, this is pretty cool, it's nice, you know. Charlie, you can tell the way that she addresses him and refers to Romero in front of Micah that she's a little sweet on him. So I think Micah has some kind of intuition that that's mom's new boo. All right. So she gets, on her phone, she gets a notification from her hired investigator that she has, that the person sending Micah death threats has been arrested, basically. And she tells Micah this. And Micah was not his only target. She's sharing that information. So multiple threats that he's put out to different people. And he thanks his mom for taking care of him, basically, keeping him safe. And then we see Vi at her restaurant, and she's in the back, and she's preparing she's preparing pies for an order for Ralph Angel. She's completely on edge, all right, jumpy. She just seems like she's not sleeping right? So then we see one of her co-workers drops something, breaks it, and immediately Vi is snapping at her. I mean, and almost just as quickly, she's realizing, and she's like, I'm sorry, I did not mean to snap at you. So then we see Ralph shows up, and he comes through the back door to pick up his order, and she's like, why did you come through the back door? And he's like, your niece is coming through the front door, meaning Nova. I'm like, damn, okay. So she sends her employee, that same one she just snapped at and apologized to the front door to meet Nova. And she does, and before Nova is even able to push into the front door, she's telling her, look, Nova, Vi does not want you here. You're not welcome here. Just like yesterday and the day before, you're not welcome here. And she's like, well, could you just tell her? And she's like, no, I can't. Anytime I say Nova says, I get a hand in my face, basically. And Nova's just, she looks really sad. She does. You see people come in, and she's like, hey, how you doing? And she's standing out front like a total stranger. All right, then we see Ralph Angel. Now, he's talking to a group of black folks at his house, you know, on the property there, the farm. He started a program which gives a chance to these recently released from prison men and women, basically. And he explains it's hard work, but that he's walked their walk, and working for him will increase their chances to not end up being one of the 6 out of 10 who usually ends up going right back to prison. And let me see. He offers them pie, basically. That's what he got the order from Vi for. And then they have paperwork so they can fill out their, you know, applications and whatnot. And I want to stress here, because if we remember in season 1, when Ralph Angel was working for this dude, how this dude would short him purposely on his check because he knew that he could. It is very hard with a record to get a good job, and then those people who will give you a job will still try to screw you. So he is a perfect one for somebody to work for once they've gotten out of prison, and I like how they're showing that here. Then we see Charlie meets with her investigator, who informs her that basically the borderlines, oh my gosh, are putting everything into a new highway set to turn. That's not their last name. So I'll get their last name here in a second. They're putting the white family that they have the problem with, they're putting everything that they have into a new highway set to run right through their town, including their property, Ralph Angel's, her property. They're putting everything behind Jacob Boudreaux, that's her last name, sorry, taking over the Barrow seat on the city council to make sure they don't fight back, basically. So they're trying to get their foot legally in the door to make sure all this happens. And it's supposed to be a secret. Like, Charlie's not even supposed to know this at this point. Okay, so not to mention, this new route cuts right through mostly black farmers' land. So it's not just their family, it's all the other black families. That's where this highway is aimed towards. And let me see, it cuts through borderline land. And Charlie says, I should have known. She's like, I should have known. They weren't able to get the prison set up last season, so now they gotta, they always scheming after the black folks. That's what their purpose in life is. Okay, so then we see Nova reaches out to Ralph Angel, calling, leaving messages, saying she loves him. And it's funny that all this success means nothing to her, because her book is being highly praised. She's getting a lot of good feedback. It's going to be a bestseller, basically. And she just wants her family to share this joyous moment is. And that's what it boils down to. You want someone you love and care about to be there with you. And she's wiped them all away with her mouth, telling their secrets. Okay, so she then gets a call from her publishing company, telling her that her tour has been increased, basically, to many more cities due to her book's success. Like, that's exactly how good this book is. It really sucks that she's alone in this. Ooh, sorry, my window's open. And then we see Vi at her restaurant, where she's praising her employee for all her hard work, basically. And she tells her to go ahead and take a break while she can. And then she walks by the doors, because she's in the back when she's having this conversation, and she walks by the doors, and she hears a voice that she thinks is Jimmy. And you see Vi just completely stop and freeze up. And it's almost like you could hear her heartbeat. Like, this is how intense this moment is. And then she's slowly turning around, and then she looks out there, and it's not Jimmy. It's not him. And the relief that sweeps over her face is, wow. She is so freaked out by that man. He is gone, and he's not there, and she's still shook. All right. Let me see. Then we see Charlie meets with Councilman Isabel, who explains that she is stepping down and how important it is to choose their battles, basically. Charlie brings up how she stopped, you know, the prisons from happening, and she says that this is nothing compared to this. That's what the woman is telling her. This is nothing compared to the prison work that you were able to accomplish last year, basically. And she's, we then see Charlie show up to, she's going to see Francis Boudreaux, and at her home, and she immediately lets it be known that she does not like being handled, okay? And that's exactly how they treated her. So she then spews how she knows what is up with this borderline plan, down to taking her family's land. She's letting her know, I know what you're doing. And Francis is like, please stop taking everything so personally. she says, like it's no big deal. This rich white woman reminds her of how she will profit irregardless, because she does have stock in the whole family company. So when they make money, Charlie makes a little bit of money because she's sold into these damn devils. Okay, so she reminds her how she will not see her family and farmers thrown away like trash. Charlie's telling her, I'm here for them, and that's what I'm going to be fighting for. And then Frances reminds her how 40 years ago she would be lucky to be allowed to clean her toilets here in her house. And yet you just walked across this ground like you owned the damn place. That's yes, she did. And okay, so she points out how you're not one of them. And she's basically pointing to all her guests there. She said, I read your sister's book. She said, you conquered the league, turning the basketball player into an empire, basically. She turned her husband's name and money into an empire. That's what she did. And she said, only a stone-cold capitalist knows how to do that. And she says, we're more alike than you think. And Charlie says, you think my sister's sentimental grovel gives you insight onto who I am? That damn book, basically. Damn, Nova. She's like, you wouldn't make it one day in Hollywood or basketball. And she says, I can conquer you both. Even when he tries to run for office for you. And at that point, let me see, she's talking about, then she says that you didn't think that I knew about Jacob basically running for office. And she's like, oh yeah. You would see the shock in Frances's face because she really had no idea that Charlie knew. It's a good moment for Charlie, it is, because she stumped her. And she's like, I do know, basically. And at this point, she just leaves, okay? I'm sorry I'm so into these notes. I have a lot of them, y'all. Okay, then we have Darla. She's at her place with her new guy that she's talking to. And remember, he's a fellow recovering addict. And they're having a cute little conversation because he's convincing her of the importance of vinyl records. And I agree with him, y'all. If you have never listened to an actual record played on a record player, do so. I'm like, it's a whole different sound, and I don't think I've heard anything else that can get with it like that. But I'm an old head, so forgive me. Okay, he then stands her up, basically, and he's playing the record, and they're slow dancing, and it's a really good moment. But she seems to be in deep thought at this point, and she even looks like a little scared. I believe that in the back of her mind, Darla is wondering, how far did that book go? What's in that book? All right, then we see Ralph Angel talking about his new program with one of his newer employees, who then asks Ralph Angel, can I ask you a personal question? And he's like, yeah. And he's like, is it true what I heard about Blue? And Ralph's like, what did you hear? And old boy just looks at him like, you know. And he's like, I just want to give props to you basically for being a father. He's like, my bio dad, my biological father, he said he never stepped up for me the way that you do for your son. And he's like, I'm proud to be working for a brother doing the right thing. And he's like, I just want nothing but respect here. And even though it kind of took Ralph off guard, it's a moment that he's able to appreciate and take that away from him. Even though Ralph is so stuck up on the fact that he's not Blue's biological father. Okay. Then we see Charlie is at the home when Davis shows up with his daughter. So her ex-husband, who had a whole affair on her that she did not know about, brings the daughter to her house. What the fuck, y'all? Okay. He brings her to introduce her to her brother. And you can see Micah's answering the door, and they come in. It's like a shocked moment because Davis was not expecting her to be there, and Micah was even like, oh, I didn't know you were home. Okay, so she comes over, and you can see, you know, he's like, well, I told you I brought you a surprise. He's telling Micah that, and he's like, this is your sister, Tia. And let me see. Although Charlie is shook, She is pleasant and introduces herself to Tia. And she sends Micah and Tia, you know, basically go get to know your sister. And at that point, Davis invites her to the breakfast they're about to go to. And she declines. She's like, she ain't trying to go eat with them. And then he tells her that she will not, she tells him that she will not want to be what he wants her to be, basically. Gosh, I'm in my notes. Sorry, y'all. And he tells her that she needs to acknowledge the truth, that that child exists and that she is innocent and here to stay. And she's like, oh, I know that. She says, and at this point, he also tells her that he has decided to retire from basketball and that he's taken the head coaching job at BYU. And she's like, good for you. And she's like, Tia can visit Micah whenever she wants to, basically. That's fine. And she's like, well, I will not be backdoored into raising a child that you laid down and made and kept a secret for 13 years. I'm like, damn, was he really trying to do all that? I don't know, but Davis is a sneaky samama. So probably, I don't know. She knows better than we do. That was her husband. Okay, Nova is introduced. We see her. And they're introducing her at her book premiere party, basically, there. And she reads a story of her father. Basically, her father who had run into, her father took her fishing, and they stopped at the little store on the way, and in the store, her dad went alone. She sat in the car. She saw three white men walking after her father, and apparently there was an altercation, okay, because her dad came back. He looked disheveled, somewhat beat up, and they had threatened 10-year-old Nova, basically. They saw her on the way in, and they threatened her to her father with sexual intentions. They wanted to rape the child. She's 10. Okay, so after that, her dad watched her like a hawk, okay? Everything she did, he was always on her, and he seemed stressed out. And then a week after the incident, she said that she used to do this all the time. She would sneak out of the house and take walks in the woods. And she did this one night, and that's where she saw her dad digging a hole, a big, deep hole out in the woods, and that basically he had dropped a bag that looked like 3 different bags that had 3 different bodies in it, and he buried them up. Basically, she went back in the house and she never spoke about what she saw. She literally said, I did not put this story in the book. So instead of reading from her book at the premiere, she wrote about another story, giving away a whole nother family secret. One that her father took to his freaking grave. Yeah, that one. She shared that. Anyway, Micah is the only family member who's there at her premiere. So there's Micah sitting with all these empty seats that have her relatives' names on them. And no, they did not go. And who can blame them? So after she reads her little story, we see her sitting at the table citing books. And Chantel, Nova's ex, remember the girl that she was messing with? She comes up and she tells her she is so proud of her. And she notices basically that her whole family's not there. And she offers an ear for her if she needs somebody to talk to. Basically, you can call me. And she leans over and kisses Nova pretty doggone good in the mouth. Like I said, they used to be lovers. And then she leaves. Then we see Darla is at home. And she reads what Nova wrote about her during her drug-addicted days. And I do mean that she's talking about when they found Darla. She was at some broke-down house. Some old, nasty, gold-tooth having, Newport smoking, whatever guy was on top of her pounding away, and she's into and out of consciousness, and her baby's over in the corner, and that's what she wrote about in the book. And she is so freaking pissed, okay, after reading this. And let me see. She goes straight over to Nova's house, and as soon as Nova opens the door, she's coming right in, and she's like, how can you do this? And Nova's like, I did things differently with you. And she's like, I didn't use your name. If you know the family, you know who Ralph Angel's baby mama is. It does not take a genius to figure that out. You can call him whatever the hell you want to. Nova is being real stupid about this, okay, y'all? And Darla is like, she says, this will expose my old lifestyle to my new world. Darla's worked hard to get where she's at right now. She has worked extremely hard, and she's doing so good, okay? And Nova says, if someone does find out your story, she's of strength and resilience, your story of strength and resilience is one to be proud of. And Darla says, this will ruin the new life that I've worked so hard for. And Nova's like, people need to hear your story. Nova's like, I thought you of all people would understand. And she's like, me? Why would I understand? And she's like, you told Ralph Angel the truth about Blue, knowing that it would cause a whole lot of pain. You told him he's not his biological father, or that there was a chance he wouldn't be. And she says, man, she said, did you even consider my son hearing these things about his mother? Darla is pissed, y'all. She's crying. She's upset. She's hurt. And she says, you wrote that I used to steal to feed my addiction. And she said, well, you wrote a whole book full of memories that you have stolen. Okay? Because she did. Everybody else, she stole them herself. And she says, don't ever, ever come near my son or me ever again. And she looks her dead in the eye and she tells her, you're lower than I ever was. And I'm like, oh, I ain't playing with your ass. And then we see Micah returns from the book unveiling. And when he does, he's sitting there telling his mom, Charlie, how at the book unveiling thing that there was 2 families that worked out their differences after reading the book, basically. So it helped them. And he then tells her about the story that Nova told about her father protecting her. And she's like freaked out. So we then see Nova calls her ex Chantel over. She calls her on the phone basically to see if she wants to come over. And she says, you always do whatever you want to do. And she's like, you need to work on you. Chantel is basically telling her, because Nova wants her to come over there. And she's like, why didn't you just come over here? Chantel doesn't have time for her, basically. Then we see Charlie, Ralph Angel, and Vi. They're all at Vi's house. And, I'm sorry, at the restaurant. And where she's telling them that at Nova's party, the story that she told, that Micah then told her. And she asked if it was true. And she says, all I know is there was a problem. This is Vi talking. All I know is there was a problem with 3 white men and who we never saw him again. It's like they were there, he was stressed out, and he was gone. And Vi is like, Charlie is like, why didn't you tell me? And Vi is like, just like Nova, that's what you're acting like right now with that question. And she says, you think you got a right to what everybody holds in their soul? And she's like, you don't. And that's facts, y'all. That is fact. Every single solitary person has a right to things that they've gone through that they do not share. And I'm not talking about deep-seated crazy things that will hurt you, but even then, would you really tell your child about that? No. Anyway, she says, everybody got a right to keep some things between themselves and God. And she says, we need something to talk about on Judgment Day. And that's the most real thing I could say about it. Darla, we see her there. She's, I guess, left Nova's house and gone over to Ralph's. And she's upset. She's on the porch when Ralph shows up there coming home. And she breaks down crying. And she's like, she wrote about me and my life. She is so hurt, y'all. I mean, she falls into Ralph's chest and he's holding her. He's consoling her. And then we see Vi running bath water at home. Okay, so she's in the bathroom, door closed. Hollywood's right outside the bathroom in the bedroom. And he's getting ready to go to bed. And he calls to her and he's like, are you coming to bed? And she's like, I need to take a bath. And then while the water's running, Vi breaks down, y'all. She grabs this towel and she's like crying into it that moment. And women do this. We hold a whole lot of stuff and a lot of hurt, a lot of pain. And when we need a moment, we need a freaking moment, okay? And so you see Hollywood hear her outside the room and rise like he's going to go help her, save her. And I'm watching this and I'm like, Hollywood, know when to leave a woman the fuck alone, please. And that's what he does. He sits back down on the bed and Vi breaks all the way down. She's crying into this towel on the bathroom floor. And this is a strong and heavy moment. And I'm glad they showed it, y'all. Because so many of us go through this. And sometimes you need to be left alone when you're that hurt. Like it's personal and you want to keep it that way. And your partner needs to know. Or they need to figure it out. One or the other. Anyway, This was an excellent show, y'all. I really hope you liked it. If you liked my video, hit the like button and become a subscriber. Leave your comments down below, okay? Because I love to read them. Thanks for watching, y'all. Bye-bye.